Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Ahagao Comics, Qua, and Nestor Flores. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everybody. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's time once again to talk about Star Wars Legion by Fantasy Flight Games. Yeah, I did do a video on this game earlier this week. It was really cool. I really loved it. Hey, guess what? There's more. Yeah. I kind of actually expected them to do the two articles back to back, but no. We're just going to do one on Thursday, and then basically it's even odds. Will we get the Imperial Specialist article on like a Monday or Tuesday or something, like about when we got the announcement article on the new heavy units, or will we get it on the day it releases? By the way, this is out. Here's what's in it. I don't know. I really don't know. But we're here. We're going to talk about Rebel Specialists, finally. It's not like these guys have been announced, leaked, whatever, since friggin' Gen Con. And we finally get a preview article, because the announcement article was fucking useless. Well, I probably shouldn't have said that. I might get demonetized. This is early in on my video. Anyway, I'm joking. We're not actually monetized right now. That's a future me problem. But hey, we're here. We're going to do the thing. We're going to talk about Rebel Specialists. We got the spread, we got a unit commander, we got all kinds of upgrades and stuff. And yes, I am using the same asset scheme as my Wookiee Warriors video. Tell me what you think. Anyway, let's go ahead and power on into the Rebel Officer as the commander and kind of start this baby off. So the Rebel Officer is a new generic commander. They are a resolute commander, in fact, but they're not unique, so you can take up to two of them, because you can take up to two commanders, and you can very easily fit that in a list, because they're only 50 points. It's pretty interesting. So obviously they're one mini. He's got 4 wounds, 2 courage. We got a surge conversion on both offense and defense. Let me, because I always like to double-check my sources and never like to speak off the cuff. Check how his health shakes up for Rebels, and that means I gotta go on the Star Wars Legion wiki and double check. So yeah, so with 4 he's got significantly less health than other commanders. Usually they're about 6, but he's real cheap. He's got 2 attacks, just a generic unarmed for 1 black die, you know, the watch out for melee, and then he's got an officer's pistol, range 1 to 2 for a black and a white. Not a big deal, but hey, he's got a surge conversion, so that's okay. He's speed 2, white defense die. Very, very bland. Very not useful in this. In the form of actually doing stuff, like actually shooting with the commander and being shot, the Rebel Officer's terrible, I think, compared to other commanders. But he's cheap. That's why. Keywords, though, you do get take cover, the action. So choose a friendly unit, range 1, they get a dodge token. Choose 1 friendly unit, I should say. You get Inspire 1, remove up to 1 suppression token from a friendly unit, range 1 to 2. And you get Sharpshooter 1, so he's kind of okay on cover. And then, you know, Courage 2, Inspire 1, got a little bit of a suppression bubble. So you can definitely mix this guy in there with some other units. And they have the Order upgrade and the gear slot. The Order upgrade's really easy. I would say take, what is it, Esteemed Leader? The one that lets you give friendly units near you Guardian 1. Just because... yeah, you're probably not going to use the Rebel Officer, like, you're not going to do like you do with, like, Luke or something. You're not going to send him out on his own, or leading the charge, at least, of units to deal heavy damage to the enemy. This guy is going to be tucked in there with plenty of infantry as bullet sponges, and mostly be there to offer you the extra courage bubble, the ability to take cover is one of his actions, you know, the Inspire to cut down on suppression, that kind of stuff. But for 50 points, this is... and considering that most of the upgrades in his upgrade slots are cheap, even if you go full kit on this guy, you're talking about saving significant amounts of points in your list total. Because to bring up Leia again, she's, you know, 90 points. Now, yeah, she's got Inspire 2, and Sharpshooter 2, and Take Cover 2, and Nimble, and both of her attacks are 3 black dice, and she's got a Pierce, and her Surge conversion is to crit. So you're paying, or you're getting a lot of value for paying your extra 40 points. But, you know, hey, if you really, you really want to try and make airspeeders work, or you're gonna use land speeders in the next, when those come out in a couple months after this guy, you know, you wanna get some more fully kitted units. You want to use a lot of the Rebel Special Forces options, because the Pathfinders don't have like a minimalized version. Or also he frees you up points. He gives you a commander. You can take Chewie. You know, you can probably fit Han and Chewie and still get a second, or just Chewie if you wanted in commander and Wookiee warriors. You know, basically you sacrifice having a really boss commander to have a much more boss list. Other than that, honestly, because it's so simple and none of these like keywords or anything are new, there's not a lot else to talk about here. 50 points, 4 health. You know, got an okay attack up close. Got a couple upgrade options anyway. He's not terrible, but you know, that's really going to be on you if this is the best way. This is like, yeah, my list needs this guy or my list doesn't need this guy. So even though they're not tied to the Rebel Officer specifically, let's talk about the new command cards that are in this block. So if you're familiar with the videos I do, you can probably be used to this. I'm going to show you the command cards all in one asset, but I'm going to actually talk about them individually in order. So let's talk about that 1 pip Sabotage Communications, which I believe people have kind of been able to suss out before, but hey, so this is 1 pip. It only gives you an order to 1 Special Forces or an operative unit. It's Rebel only, so it can be used with any combination of commanders, but only if you're Rebel. So you can even insert this in your regular commander list if you want to replace, you know, Ambush or something. And then your opponent must issue orders to 1 fewer unit than is indicated on their command card to a minimum of 1. So, okay, this can activate a Special Forces or an operative. You can slip in a Chewbacca. Also, I expect that means that other operatives are probably going to be announced soon. Like, maybe a lot of people are like, you know, Cassian operative, because that's kind of how he, quote-unquote, operates. And then also Special Forces unit, that's another thing that, like, at least talking about the Rebel Officer, this is definitely a card you want to slot in there. Well, actually, I think you have to because he's generic unless you take another commander. But the way you're probably going to be using that guy, because, hey, I mean, you might replace your command cards if you're running, like, with Chewbacca. But the way you're running the generic commander, you're almost assuredly doing it to pay for heavier units, which, ironically, that's how the second card goes. We'll talk about that in a second. So the fact that this issues an order to Special Forces or operatives is okay. The ability to make your opponent issue an order to 1 less unit is great. You know, and it offers some comedic potential, but also is just handy because, you know, hey, your order procs first, so you get to issue orders, but hey, Palp drops an entire legion, and he's like, each eligible unit, and you're like, 1 less of those. Pick 1 of those guys to leave out. You know, it's kind of funny that way. But yes, I think it's a pretty good command card. It's a decent 1 pip. You know, 1 pip cards are supposed to proc first, and you accept that you don't get to pick a lot of units you activate. If you're running a smaller, more elite army, you know, that's not as big of an issue. And can be really fun. I like it. I like the idea here. So let's talk about the 2, wherever the heck that is in my images assets. Here it is, Turning the Tide. So, here's a really interesting one. Turning the Tide, 2 pip, 2 support or heavy units. Rebel only, each friendly support and heavy unit, so not just the ones you issue order to, but all of them, gains Inspire 2, which means that, when does Inspire 2, okay, after your rally step, remove tokens from other friendly units at a range. So, yeah. That's really rad. So, 1, I think the environment in the next few releases will change up so that people, especially depending on what the generic pilot does, people may be more willing to run, like, 1 T-47. Especially with, like I said, the cheaper cost on Rebel Operative. But also just the synergy is really good. Like, does this make airspeeders great? No, but it certainly can help you as a Rebel unit to be like, hey, here's a card that specifically activates my heavier support units, and it rewards me for having them in amongst my guys. It's great if you run ATRTs. It'll probably be great if you run the land speeder. It'll probably be okay if you run the air speeder, but it's just, this is a good way to, like, nice middling, to get your activations for sure on those guys, which can be handy because well, first of all, you can't run more than 2 heavy units if you're playing a standard army, but you're probably not running a lot of these units, and so depending on how many, like, smaller activations you have, going to the bag can be a little tricksy, right? This lets you put specifically, okay, these guys can definitely go and activate when I want them to, and they have Inspire 2, which can be very handy, very influential. So that's pretty rad, turning the tide. I think you're going to see that a lot in people who like to make stuff. But here's one you're going to see all the time. The 3-pip Covering Fire, 3 core units. So just core units. So your minimum 3 core units you have. So just first of all, let's start right there. This is universally applicable. You have to have 3 core units minimum. So you will always have the units that this can activate, unless you've like lost one or something. Try to use it before then. And more often than not, you have a lot of core units. You know, you usually go up to your maximum or close to it. But still, you can always have the guys in your army to stick this on. Like, you might have built one where you only use a couple of supports and, like, no heavies even. So this is really good. And then there's the effect. After a friendly core unit performs a ranged attack, another friendly unit at range 1 to 2 may gain 1 dodge token. So that's just really rad. Because that's not just the units you order to. That's anytime a friendly core unit this turn shoots. It has to be a ranged attack. Another friendly unit at range 1 to 2 gains a dodge token. So you can use this to set up dodge chains on your core guys. You can stick it on heavies or supports that are, you need some action economy for that extra token. You can stick it on commanders who might like it, or operatives. Stick it on special forces who could really use those tokens. It's just a really great card, I think. So, yeah, you're going to see Covering Fire a lot now, just because it's so universally applicable. Like we said, Sabotage Communications, Special Forces are common these days. A lot of people like to take at least one sniper team just because of how points efficient they are for their ability to do damage from quite a long way off. And just the effect of being like, to your opponent's orders is pretty fun. Turning the tide, most people use support units on some level, so you can see where that would slot in, but they're not required, right? But still, like, the needs 3 core units is so universal. It's really good. These are great. If only they put battlefield cards in here too, but yes, no, these just generic order cards for your faction are great. They really help you build your flavor. You're going to see this replace some generic cards completely, or possibly replace certain commander cards. Like, if you are running, like, a Chewbacca, where you're not... Obviously, you literally can't run Chewie with all 3 of the units he has command card synergy with, because they're all commanders. You can definitely think about pulling out 1 or 2 of those, and then slotting in these, and then still have your regular commander cards. Very good. So, let's move into the actual personnel upgrades, the quote-unquote specialists. Alright, so... You've bought this box. You've assembled the A-team. Here's what you get. I don't know if these are in some sort of alphabetical order or something, whatever. This is the order I pulled them for my assets. So we've known the Rebels comms technician for a while. And we'll talk about the new comms upgrade, which is actually quite worth it with the technician later. That's a separate slide. But we've known this one since they actually officially announced it. You get the comms technician. She is Rebel only. You add 1 comms technician mini. You gain a comms upgrade icon, and you must equip a comms upgrade card. So the new one is 5 points, and let me check all the others at once, what their costs are. But most of them are pretty cheap. The baseline cost for the comms technician is 9 points, so it's basically your generic unit cost plus 1. For Rebel Troopers, anyway. And then it's actually technically, I believe it's cheaper. I'm going to do a lot of double-checking on numbers here. So, let's see. Actually, no. So, it's 1 point cheaper than a Rebel Trooper. That's right. And it's 2 points cheaper than the Fleet Trooper, but you have to equip a comms upgrade. And comms upgrades cost usually, 10 to 15 points. The new one is 5, so that's pretty cheap, and that's pretty effective. So, if nothing else, you're paying... basically you get a 1 to 2 point discount on a comms upgrade, because you get to add an extra body for a point or 2 cheaper, and then you are forced to pay for an upgrade, which is technically slightly cheaper than if you equipped a generic trooper, and, you know, whatever. You get what I mean. I think it's useful, especially with the new upgrade. Is it as useful as some of the other options? But I could definitely see it at least on one, just because it's slightly more points efficient, right? So the big one are the medical droid. 2-1B medical droid, rebel only. Added 2-1B medical droid mini. He has treat 1, capacity 2. And there's a whole thing about treat in the ROG, but the short version, if you haven't actually read through all that, basically you get a free action to treat during your activation. You place a wound token on this card to remove 1 token from or restore 1 mini to a friendly non-emplacement trooper unit at range 1 in line of sight. Limit 2 tokens. And there are rules about when you can replace a mini. If the unit is gone, they're completely dead, so if they only had 1 mini left, regardless of that, they started with 1 mini, or they only have the last mini left, either way, you can't, they're dead. But you can put a unit back on them. You can only restore 1 wound at a time, so even if you revive a single Wookiee, he doesn't come back at 3, he comes back at 1. And then because remember, you can't take the same action twice, you can't do this free action twice in a row, you need 2 separate droids. But you pull 1 mini, you either put 1 mini back in and basically pull a wound off him, or you pull a wound off the unit in general. And it has to be range 1, has to be line of sight. And so it can be your own unit, or it can be another unit. And treat 1 capacity 2 means he can do 1 wound at a time, and then has a capacity of 2. So you heal 2 wounds, period. And then you have the non-combatant tag, and 18 points. I think this is priced pretty fair. Like, it's quite expensive for a personnel upgrade for a unit which, keep in mind, non-combatant means you don't add attack dice. And I want to... Non-combatant's kind of weird. I've been reading it again and again, and it's... Basically, non-combatant adds a bunch of specific rules about when the non-combatant unit is dealt a wound token. Sometimes they're not dealt first, sometimes they are dealt first. It's confusing to me. Like, it's got a couple different bullet points about when it actually applies, but basically, remember, non-combatant is worried about wounds, and then eventually people will memorize the actual formula. But he doesn't add a gun, he does add a wound, but the game is picky about when he can take that wound. But treat is really good. That's, if nothing else, for your own core unit this guy is stuck on, that's 2 hits you can take, you get those guys back, so long as you don't take more than 1 a turn, and you can proc this guy to actually bring them back. You can also pop it on friendly units. All kinds of fun stuff. You're going to see this guy a lot, just because they work really well. They are really good at this. Right? Like, just... I like that it's cautious. It's only capacity 2, and it's treat 1, but, yeah, that's good. Maybe there'll be unique medical units who can be, like, treat 2, capacity 4, or treat 1, capacity 3 or something, or maybe whatever combinations they want to do. Maybe you can, if they're going to expand vehicles, maybe you can get basically a combat ambulance type thing, you know, an ambulance speeder. And that can be a vehicle that has, like, a robust treat capacity. But obviously it sucks up a lot of your list. You can do lots of different things with this. I think it's good, and I think the points value is appropriate, because otherwise this is going to get a little ridiculous. Speaking of point value, though, I really want to see how the Imperial one is priced. But hot damn, R5 Astromech, non-combatant also. He's got repair 1, capacity 2, and basically place a wound token on this card, remove 1 wound, ion, or vehicle damage token from a friendly ground vehicle at range 1 in line of sight. Limit 2 tokens. I understand why this is so cheap for Rebels. First of all, a repair 1, capacity 2? Capacity 2? That... Yeah, I don't know. That feels like that hurts a lot more than capacity 2 on the wounds does. That's like clearing an ion, clearing 1 wound, or clearing off a vehicle damage token. Like, you know, clearing them off. That's, There's so little of that, but they're so cheap. Because they're just 1 wound and then the repair ability. They don't add a gun, right? The only problem is, this is ground vehicles only. It does not help the land speeder, and it does not help the T-47, which is why I'm sure these are so cheap for Rebels. Will the Imperial unit, not only because Imperial units are usually slightly better with defense, but also because they have more ground, or will have more ground vehicles that are bigger and badder, you know, well, we'll see when that preview comes out. Because to me, I'm looking at that I'm like, so for Rebels, this is very minimal. This is if you're running an AT-RT heavy squad, you could squeak a couple of these guys in, you know, if the AT-RTs are doing most of your heavy lifting in your core or not. Otherwise, it's probably not worth it, even for 8 points. For Empire, though, with the upcoming Occupier is like rolling mobile cover. Heck, if units and transports can take actions, this thing's got a free action to siphon off 2 more wounds, or prevent a mobility kill if you take a damage token. Like, hot damn, that's gonna be killer. To just squeak these guys in like a snow trooper or a stormtrooper squad chasing. That's wow, hot damn. It's such an interesting contrast. And then of course you've got the generic inclusion rebel officer, the personnel. So you can fit up to 6 of these guys, because they're not unique, and they attach to personnel. Add 1 Rebel Officer mini, your courage is increased by 1, and you gain Inspire 1, and it has the leader keyword. This mini is now your leader. So for 19 points, so basically plus 9 points for a generic Rebel squad, you get plus 1 courage, which is great. That's phenomenal for just units. You get Inspire, so you help suppression on your buddies, and you also get a leader. Yeah, no, that's great. That's just so good. I expect you're going to see that a lot. Because you still get your plus 1 gun. So depending on what your point spread is, I can easily see people throwing this guy in there and making slightly more robust core units, right? It's really good. So now that, once again, I've shot a 20-minute video, like you guys all sat through, let's move into the final thing. There's just one upgrade they've revealed. There's another comms upgrade. I think the article suggests that it's jammer, but but comms real life, 5-point comms upgrade. When you would be issued an order, you may choose a friendly unit range 1 to 2. Issue the order to that unit instead. That's great. Like I said, for the cost, you know, like on a comms technician, oh yeah, sure, throw that fucker on there. Slap that on there, and then you can be like, whoop, gonna slide that in. Another great thing is Death Troopers upcoming for Imperials, because this will be in the Imperial version of the pack. Obviously, Death Troopers get Entourage, so they can get free orders issued to them, which, because they have the comm slot, you can just pass it on. I don't know about for special, because Special Forces usually have comms upgrades. I don't know if they really... It's cheap, but I don't know if they'll get a lot of action out of this. Also, shout out to every single person ever who predicted this upgrade in some form or another. But yeah, no. You got a field telephone now. You can send orders on. That's pretty good for the comms technician upgrade. Might be good for vehicles if you're running kind of like vehicles tight together lists. And it does have some fun synergy with, like I said, Death Troopers and Entourage. Other than that, hey, it's a cheap upgrade. It's great. It's fun. And that's comms relay. There's really nothing else to say about it. I love the ability. I'm sad it took the game almost a year to get to that ability. But it's there. It's fun. And there's really nothing else to say about it. Alright, so that's basically the end of the video. I'm glad you sat here while I rambled on so much. But the orders and or I should say the command cards and the personal upgrades are really good and I think really game-changing. And the fun thing is that for once, Imperials should be getting the same-ish thing about the same time. Maybe. I don't know. Well, the releases anyway, I'm like 99.9% certain that they're supposed to drop on the same time. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't fucking know with FFG anymore. I don't know. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're not. We do 2 expansions a month, and we keep doubling up on some stuff. Anyway, assuming they do an actual Imperial Specialists preview article, just so we can see what the command cards are and kind of take note of any point differences in the actual specialists, that'll be fun. I can double check to see if they really intend that the miniature is supposed to be a woman, even though it looks like a fat dude with huge sideburns in the previews. Maybe they'll have better looks in the... Maybe they'll have a better look on the mini. and we'll see what their command cards do and if they'll be equally as game-changing, because, yes, even if they're not perfect all the time, I just think this expansion is just such a huge toolkit for Rebels, from the generic commander to the new command cards who technically anybody can use, the actual specialists, you know, they go in your toolbox. Even just comms relay is just a fun toolkit to add. So this is really cool. Is it as cool as the Occupier and the Technical Land Speeder? Whatever. But these are actually coming out in about a week. So yeah, I will hit you up with that news whenever that occurs. And if they don't do an article, I'll kit bash something together by people posting spoilers. Whatever. We'll make it work. And in case you didn't hear or see, yes, I did a whole, also, like, 30-minute episode talking about the new heavy units and what we know about them, and then my just thoughts and my sheer joy at the Occupier, because it's so cool, but it's so dumb, but it's so cool, and lots of other stuff. And yeah, that's already out. I feel like I taunt FFG constantly to give me more work. Like I shot an L5R video yesterday that was public as of the time I'm recording this, where I bemoaned the fact that the Emerald Empire PDF isn't out, and to completely date when I recorded this episode, it immediately came out that evening. So now I look like an asshole. So if you're interested in L5R, 1, check out that video I did, and 2, look forward to, I'm going to do a review about Emerald Empire in the future, and also because I have people in the community who are interested, I'm still thinking I'm going to do that like intro to Rokugan video. Anyway, this is a Star Wars video, so look forward to Star Wars stuff. Like I said, if there's an Imperial Specialists preview article, we'll cover that. Obviously, I'll cover any ongoing announcements. We'll probably be waiting a few weeks before we get, I think it's Jin and Pathfinders articles, which should be coming next. That'll be super interesting, mostly Pathfinders. Like, I think I get the general feel for what Jin's doing. Pathfinders is something that I think both, just in general for the health of the game and also for what Rebel players' questions and concerns are, I think it will be very telling to see what toolkit aspects they bring, because we are starting to see more asymmetric releases. Like, this isn't a good example of it, because these are almost literally the same thing, except the point costs are slightly different, and I'm hoping the command cards will be significantly different and flavorful. But Wookiees and Imperial and Royal Guards, while they're both like melee focused, they kind of go about it in different ways, right? Like I said, I think I said this before, like, From my understanding and what people are saying, Royal Guards kind of stick close to your important units in a couple ways, so they can do Guardian stuff, and kind of like hold down important areas. Wookiees, with their ability to just ignore terrain, do lots of like charging forward and kind of like flanking and taking objectives that way. So they accomplish different goals in a similar manner, you know, kind of thing. The way I think you're going to use the Speeder and the Occupier is vastly different, as you can tell from their hugely different point costs. The Commanders are getting a lot more flexible, and I think Pathfinders versus Death Troopers, like, I was actually shocked at how dissimilar Death Troopers and Pathfinders are. So that, I think, is going to be another real case where we're starting to see a lot of divergence. Also, Clone Wars are coming sometime this year, probably. But as I said, I think on the... Yeah, I said that on the heavy review, that... Remember that at Gen Con, they had assets. They had early assets for Clone Wars stuff for X-Wing. They had nothing for Legion yet, other than just they put the Clone Wars and Legion logos in a slide together. So, especially because, in case you didn't know, FFG has announced a multi-year partnership with Gen Con. I am expecting a semi-stealth announcement and then a at least early release at Gen Con for like a Clone Wars starter, whether that's a faction starter kit or a full-blown core set 2. I don't know. I'm not actually sure, because honestly, as a consumer, I wouldn't want a core set 2. Even if I was starting the game, I would want just a faction starter kit, which is just like the core set generic kit, like maneuver tools and generic command cards and stuff, but just my faction, because I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that, guys. Because how do you feel about the idea that you might have to buy a full-blown second core set, right, to get all your Greebles, and then also now you got to buy basically a starter kit for clones and for droids? Oh, also, there are some madmen who want sequel trilogy expansions. I will continue to say, wait 10 years. wait 5 years, whatever. Wait for them to actually do stuff with that era. As much as I like space, there's way too much space shit in the sequel trilogy. There's like one core unit for Resistance, and then there's like, I didn't even do the guys from The Last Jedi even have a different prop look? I don't feel like they did. I'd have to go back and look. Not that I watch those movies a lot outside of the theaters, but there's that. I guess you've got heavy options, and you've got an AT-ST clone, which would have different hardpoints, and then you got the salt skimmer thing, which could be different-ish from a lane speeder or an air speeder. I have no idea what the fuck your support units are. I have no idea. You got like a couple commanders, maybe? Does Rey count as a commander? I don't think so. I don't know. It feels like it would have a problem that they kind of had an X-Wing when they were the same faction, where they're very the same but slightly more expensive and have like one different upgrade kind of thing, you know? So yeah, I really hope that, especially since there's, supposedly we're getting that quote-unquote final season of the Clone Wars coming out, but hopefully with some like Clone Wars resurgence, we can actually move all that stuff out of the way and give Legion time to build and grow, and hopefully Lucasfilm, Disney, not EA because they don't want to fucking make any projects, hopefully we can actually get some stuff in that era to actually be different and interesting and distinct and not just recolors who do the same thing. That's a philosophical discussion on how Legion expansion should be. That's for a completely different episode, but ask me about that sometime. I'll probably ramble on about game design and unit sales and how not to be exploitative and how to actually expand the game in an interesting way. Because while I understand those people, I totally don't agree with people who are just like, just shit out minis and different looks I want. I'll come up with the rules myself. Okay, that helps you. That doesn't help the game. That doesn't help players who aren't you. That's just fucking just buy model kits. Buy unofficial minis. If the look is all that matters to you, you solve that yourself. Don't make the company solve that. The company should not just shit out products just so you buy them because they look different and cool. Like, they should be meaningful upgrades. Anyway, now I'm rambling on. How long is this video going to be? It's going to be like 30 minutes now. You caught me monologuing. Why'd you do that, guys? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wind this video down. If you like this video, give it a like. If you have any comments about anything I said, especially those last bits where I rambled, but also, the earlier stuff, your own thoughts on the expansions, go ahead and leave those in the comment section down below. We also have a Discord. And also, if you are new here and have not already, subscribe to the channel so you can get our latest videos. Even if you're already subscribed, don't forget that bell for notifications so you always know we post a new video, because sometimes our posting schedule can be chaotic. And plus, it gives you a little beeple, like when we post something, so you know we posted a specific video. If you don't follow us on social media and stuff, which, by the way, is also in the description, you can find all that stuff. We got Twitter. You can follow us. You'll know when we post a video. That's less obtrusive, I think, than notifications, so that's cool. And, of course, like it says at the front of the video, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early. Sometimes you can get audio downloads for certain shows, like our podcasts and some of my quote-unquote video essay projects. And just, it helps us out. It helps us out a lot. It helps us grow the channel and helps us keep in stuff. It's probably going to pay my future dental bills. Anyway, that all out of the way. I will say that I will see you guys in the next video, whatever form that takes. Fingers crossed for Imperial Specialists. And, just, hey, generic commanders. They happened. They're not going to ruin the game. They're probably fun. Thanks for your time, everybody.